All right, rehack it into the matrix.
The ultimate solution.
All right, we're going to try this again with open mics. Welcome to 2025. I've got mics open on everybody here. I got three of, us have been working in AI for a time, and we haven't been together on camera. And I tried to put a stage together and make everything happen all beautiful. And we had this great intro, and Leland messed it up. So welcome to 2025, everyone. This is the first edition of Best AI Podcast of January 7th, 2025. My partner down below, Ross, and I have been doing this for a little while, but we have not been on stage in a while. So welcome back, Ross. Thanks for having. Jim Hankins, CEO of Cloud Bedrock, is here with us today. There goes Ross's camera. Just like we needed that. That was, yeah. Let's drive it home this year all the way. That's the way it's going to start.
I'm going to have to get a webcam just for these things, man.
I have one for Ross that I'm going to mail him one of these days.
I just buy one. I just don't want to. I've got a really nice camera. It just times out after 30 minutes.
All right. We'll use that as the blooper reel then, guys. We can do this. That's all I'm going to do is I'm going to snap and come right back. Here we go. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Best AI Podcast. This is Leland Best, your host for the third time today in 2025. We're just going to keep this is Groundhog's Day, right? We're just going to this isn't February. So we're just going to give up on the whole introduction thing, guys. Let's just be authentic about it. This is what we do. We come out here to work in AI. We have a play. We're not really out here to be television broadcasters. We're out here to show you guys how to apply AI in your business. Ross and I call it AI Fusion. Jim's the IT guy that's doing a lot of the work on the back end for us, and what he's managed to do recently that we're all excited about, honestly. Let me get to my little screen share here because I probably have one somewhere. I do, but you know what? We need to get a window up for Jim. He's the creator of CribOps, and if you head over to cribops.com, you're going to see what this is all about, because we're going to let Jim give us a rundown today anyway. Not if I spell it wrong. Dude, this has been what a start to 2025 already.
Focus on Jim's screen. I just get mesmerized by his blinking lights and back there. It's beautiful.
It is. And it's all real. That's not a fake screen back there. Jim's got the real McCoy operating. So, Jim, welcome to the broadcast. I appreciate having you here. You've been here once before, and so is your wife, Dorian.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
And we've had a lot of fun out here on the broadcast. So tell everybody a little bit about who you are, because not many people know who you are in this space.
Yeah, sure. I'm usually the man behind the curtain. I'm deep undercover. Everybody knows Dorian. Nobody knows Jim. So, and it's by design. But
that's true.
You don't let the engineers talk to the customers, Leo. That's one of my favorite outtakes of one of my favorite movies. Yeah. So Jim Hankins, CEO of Cloud Bedrock. I've got about 30 years or so in IT. I've done a number of different things. Probably one of the more public things. I used to be a chief technology officer for a company called Geos that was acquired by Garmin, and that was in the emergency response coordination space. Say that fast 5 times. But basically, we took SOS messages from satellite emergency notification devices. If you hit a panic button anywhere in the world, Geos would coordinate a rescue deploy outside the mountain, out in the middle of the ocean, in the mountains, etc. And coordinate your rescue. And so I built the infrastructure for that to care for the messages that are passing through. So your
primary experience is IT. You've been behind the scenes. You're the guy behind the curtain, is what we call you.
Yeah,
way
back.
You can see all that stuff behind this curtain over there. He's got his curtain drawn back today for us. So, being the creator of CribOps, Jim, tell us, what was it? We're all home labbers here. So if you guys don't understand the concept of what CribOps is all about, it's really a key. It's a way for us to keep our home labs running without the need for something like Cloudflare or ngrok to protect the front end of our interface. And I'm running an M1, you know, Jim's got all kinds of heavy duty equipment back there, but that's what I use to run my N8N space. So Jim has given me the opportunity to key messages through his queue, and Jim's going to tell us all about how that works, but it's just that little doorway that he's managed to open us, but it's really changed the game. So Jim, what did you do? What was the thought process behind CribOps?
Yeah. So I'm kind of a one-trick pony. You know, I deal with messages. You know, that's kind of like my favorite thing I like to do, pass messages back and forth from one machine to another. And actually, I'll give credit to Leland and Ross, who actually came to me asking me for a different, to solve a different problem, which was, hey, we want to host NA in the cloud reliably, right? And I, started looking at that, and then I was like, well, wait a minute. Actually, what they really want is to be able to provide services for NA, and it doesn't really matter where it is. And so, yeah, that was kind of the impetus of CribOps from the perspective of we're providing a front door, production ready front door to locally hosted services. It could be NAN, it could be anything. And when I say production ready, that means it's public. It's out there 24/7, ready to receive requests. And we're on AWS, so it's a load balancer out there. It's secure, highly available. But in between the load balancer and you is a message broker. And they're really good for doing things like topic-based routing, storing messages temporarily until your system is ready to receive it. So let's say you have a really popular product launch and you're getting a bunch of orders on your e-commerce system. You don't want to overwhelm the your e-commerce system. You want to buffer those requests, right? So we handle that. That also facilitates if your system goes down. You have an update, you have an unplanned outage, you have an internet burp, and in the process, the messages will be there so that when your system comes back online, you can start consuming those messages again. So yeah, that's basically it. It's you could call it like a message broker sandwich. So it's on the public side, it's a webhook. In the middle is a message broker, and then CribOps is a desktop delivered software, currently on Mac, shortly on Windows, and later then again on Linux and some embedded systems. And we process those messages out of the queue and deliver them wherever they be on premise. Or you could actually still send those messages to public endpoints as well. So you could try the local, if the local's not working, or least cost routing, send it up to the public site. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and down in the window down there, if you're watching me kind of play around on my machine while Jim's talking, I'm simply pulling up my AM1 over here in my home lab, which is attached to my network through the switch over here next to me on the right. It's just a little steel box that sits on a file cabinet. That's all it is. And what I've done is I've built a Docker container within that system. So inside the Docker, I've run what is the N8N starter AI kit that they have available out at GitHub, which contains in that kit the N8N install, the community install, which is available for free. It's an unlimited use product that anyone can install on a Docker container in Kubernetes or any other place that could be hosted. With regards to the development here that N8N put together, they've added the Postgres database, an Ollama build, which is an open source LLM that allows you to use several of the models that are available on the Ollama website. You can also pull the entire Ollama code and install it on your M1, which I've done up here. You can see the icon for the Llama install here already in place, though there is a version that comes in a container that you can use immediately within the toolkit. The Quadrant is another database that's allowed for some of the AI component, where the AI assistant work that we do, where we build workflows that require immediate access to databases within the workflow, then we incorporate these as well. So just to give an idea of my construction, with CribOps installed, which is up here at the top of the list, I have a settings window that I can acquire. So tell us, Jim, about what I'm doing here with CribOps.
Yeah, so that endpoint screen is basically your ability to, on the fly, create an endpoint or a destination on your local or a public destinations. And when you create it, it's not only creating a public endpoint for you to access, but it's also creating that queue we talked about. And as soon as that's done, messages bound for the public API endpoint that you can just click the copy button on there. You paste it wherever it needs to go, and it'll start routing the messages.
So
Yeah, if you go back to that setting, you can see the little copy button there. Yeah.
He gave me the webhook, so I used the little plus button. I copied the webhook out of N8N and I paste that here. So what I do from there is I create a queue name. It might just be Mac 1. And this could be, I know it's a connection to my Mac Mini, and I may also want to add in that it's going to the N8N. Because why, Jim? I may be able to route these feeds to different locations, correct?
That's right. Yeah, you can run multiple instances depending on your plan with CryptOps, and have even multiple instances talking to the same queue. And so that way you get either copies of the same message to two different applications, or you can set it up in a way where only one is processing and you're kind of in a failover scenario. So in case the primary goes down, the second one picks up where the other one left off.
Sure. So, and in this case, even in particular, if I wanted to at least take what feed I wanted to from another source, let's say I wanted to file up something on, I was going to connect something to NewOaks the other day, and I went ahead and created a flow for that. So I'll give an example of how that works. We're going to get Rusted up here shortly too, as well, and have the ability to access the feature set here. He hasn't been able to tie in some of these applications. So NewOaks has a webhook API integration. So what I'm able to do in this case, in NewOaks situation, is if I want to pull in leads from this chatbot that's gathering form data on a website, or if I want to pick up some of the conversational flow that's taking place between the AI and the user interface on the other end on the website, I can do that by connecting to a webhook. And you can see here, I've already established a cribops.com webhook on this end, which is identified as NewOaks 2 CRM. So what it's doing is that's my identifier over here in cribops to know that I have a link to the NewOaks 2 CRM here. It's the first one I created in cribops. And that is the web link that I copied from here. It's a simple copy and paste. You click here, copy it, paste it over here where it needs to go. And then I'm going to go through, and Jim was kind enough. I have to say, Jim, I got to give you credit for this, because this isn't something that all APIs will allow for. But in the case of NewOaks, the dev team wanted me to provide a webhook response of a particular type, an exact type, which was to say it had to come back with a status of success, either just a status of success or that at the front of whatever message I wanted to deliver as a response back to the webhook. So in this case, Jim was kind enough to go back into his software and actually modify his response message return so that it would accept that or send the full response proper from NewOaks so that it would accept it. It's his way to verify the feed so you know you're connecting with NewOaks, but it's not a normal process. It's not what most people would have to go through. So I appreciate that, Jim.
No problem.
I want to ask a question real quick.
Go ahead, please.
So, Jim, this is something that's really interesting because Leland opened up CryptOps and was able to get an endpoint in 2 seconds and was able to put that into N8N and literally under a minute had it connected where status was green. Can you go over the problem that you solved here? What would this take if we didn't have CryptOps? How much would we have to do to be able to get that endpoint into N8N? Because it's not easy.
Right. Yeah. So generally people will have two different paths. So either work to get something like an N8N, well, either host it with them. And in that case, that's the easy button, right? You're paying for a hosted service, right? But if you want to use the self-hosted community model, your choices are host it in a public cloud, somewhere, or host it locally. As soon as you host it locally, and the reason why you might want to do that hosting it locally for an AI agency would be you've got access to your on-premise GPU resources. So you have orders of magnitude, less expensive and probably more powerful solutions locally to be able to do that. But now you have to figure out how to open up that endpoint to the world to connect, and it needs to be secure. And also it needs to be available. Right. So if you're hosting it on premise locally, and you've got your Cloudflare or whatever solution you're using as a reverse proxy, that's great. You've opened it up, but now you also have to be concerned about the security of the system that you have publicly exposed. So if that system becomes compromised and you don't have it placed behind a demilitarized zone or those kinds of things, now you've exposed the entire location to any kind of nefarious activities, right? So there's the security aspect of it. But then another one that people oftentimes don't think about is the availability. So that last mile, the single machine that you have it running on, the single hard drive, the single power supply, the single location, the single internet connection, all of those are single points of failure. And so if any one of those things go down, that's a house of cards for the process that you are probably either, it's important to you as an organization because you're running it for yourself, or even more important if you're running it for your customers. So by putting a public service, just the kind of what I consider the bare minimum public services in front of that, which is load balancers and a durable message queue in between. Now you can buffer and store and handle those intermittent outages by that very fact, right? So and it's the easy button. So you could definitely do all those things yourself. It's cost prohibitive at the scale of just one agency to do that. So you need kind of the economies of scale of a software provided service to make sense unless you're at a pretty significant scale. Yeah.
And that was the other thing that I ran into, just trying to use, I threw the Cloudflare screen up there a minute ago, only because that and ngrok are some of the many alternatives to create tunnels that allow us to secure our in-home lab. However, it doesn't provide the queue. And that's, I think, the key feature that Jim is providing here, because we can block the tunnel, we can protect our network. But if it goes down, we lose any connection to any messaging that is coming into our source at that time and for the entire time that the service is down. So Jim is offering a service that queues all of those messages and saves them until the network comes back up again. So that is, to me, that resilience that everyone really needs in a home lab that cannot be acquired on Cloudflare, cannot be acquired on ngrok, or even trying to maintain your own, internal systems. It's an outside source that's maintaining all your message queue, and it won't be something that's going to break inside your own network. So
you mentioned the outage issue as well. The other kind of follow on to that is if your sending party is something like, let's say, for example, Stripe. Stripe has a webhook capability, and they're sending messages to whatever endpoint you're providing, which could be a CribOps, or it could be your Cloudflare fronted proxy into your location. If you do have an outage at some point, the sending party can decide, okay, if there's too many failures, I'm not going to send anymore. So they're going to turn it off because it ties up their system, right? So now not only do you have the outage of the time that you were down, now you have to go and realize, one, that it is down. They've sent you an email, you may not have seen it, and it could be down for days or longer because you didn't realize they stopped sending for that momentary outage of an hour or something, because Comcast took out your network or whoever your network provider is. So yeah. So returning quickly and reliably is kind of the name of the game for public web endpoints. Is it needs to be 200 okay or 201 accepted, right? So
yeah, exactly. And that's, if I go on to, let me go ahead and pull up a build real quick to kind of complete the thought there, so that you guys get a better understanding. I'm going to break away from what I had here, which was just to show I can capture a webhook and get going instantly. I made a workflow here for this connection the other night as far as the New Oaks thing. So let me head over here to the actual New Oaks lead hook. So this is what it took to build this. And let me get to the screen so everybody can see it. It was basically a 4-step process. Because of the way Jim delivers his message through the broker, it has to be split out from the content that's being brought in on the webhook. And the reason being is that it's part of the body of the message. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and start to listen for that webhook from New Oaks. And I'm just going to send the test to verify the success. So I've done that. Now I have a success connect to where I need to be. The only thing that's going to take place here is once a day, New Oaks, and it sounds like they've made it recently an update so that every time a lead comes in, an appointment record is established inside. So that's not normal. It wasn't normally the case with New Oaks. It was set up to actually be just delivered across like 2 p.m. each day, so that you would get all your leads in your database. So it's already connected the form to the system. It was literally, if you look at the execution period that took place here, it was within 0.006 seconds that the webhook was managed into N8N through Jim's message broker. So from New Oaks to Jim to me took less than 1/100th of a second to get the message across and be able to connect. So from there, I'm just going to take it one step at a time. The thing that was also done in my favor, thanks to Jim, was the fact that he attached that success record. This was the authentication process that took place to verify the signature. So that was just a component that not many people are going to have to deal with. But to show you how the message comes in and is delivered, if we take the webhook and we look at the JSON content, the body right here, you'll see he has a body component and then another body under it, which is the delivering package or the payload that Jim is sending based on the message you're pushing through his webhook. So we can take a look at that on the other end. We split that out as just a separate entity. So when we get to the split out on N8N, what we have now, we get to the webhook. Oh, I'm looking at it from the executed part. I'm sorry. So if we go to the split out here, let me go ahead and run these steps so you guys can better see. I was in the execution of the step mode, so I didn't let you guys see what it was doing. So let me test this step out. So now I have a data in JSON. It's managed to verify the signature. We're good there. I'm going to run the next step manually, which is the split out. And now in the split out, it's going to take that segment of the body that's in the JSON, the body, let's say, and we've drugged that over as an expression inside the field to split out. And it's going to pull just the body, which is all of Jim's payload, into that particular node. And then from there, we can edit those fields and split that up with JSON code that's going to allow us to parse everything that's in the body into a format that we can utilize in our CRM. So in this case, we've broken it down into a serial number, a type of user, which came in as a lead through his lead component system, and then the first name, last name, email, phone number, create time, content, session ID, and URI from New Oaks. So this is the full contact being delivered. If we were to test that contact, it's going to produce the JSON that's going to be sent to the CRM and delivered to the CRM's contact list. So very well established, very easily put together, and it ran brilliantly in a very few number of seconds. So Jim, kudos to you for giving me the ability to make these connections in-house to New Oaks and start pulling in my leads and my AI conversations.
It was almost easier than the original thing you asked me for in the first place, so almost.
Kind of.
There's a little bit of code. Yeah, so one of the things, as Leland was talking about there on the signature validation, so we do preserve the request that comes in when we accept the webhook on your behalf. So we're preserving the headers, we're sending the headers of that request, and we're sending the body. And those are used for services like New Oaks or Stripe, where you're concerned about validating that the message you're receiving is actually coming from the party that's sending it, right? So you'll have a means to use like a webhook signature to validate that, validate that signature and make sure it's coming from who they say it's coming from. So you don't deliver a product for a fake payment confirmation.
Yeah,
that would be bad.
I should show the fact that Jim delivers a whole big payload here. It's not just the message itself. The body is just that which you've delivered. So when you look, whoops, I sent Jim back over there. I thought I had my other screen up. Sorry, Jim. Over here is where I wanted to take you. This is the initial payload that comes in JSON format on the webhook. So the body was what I was pulling the message from so that I could do what I wanted to do, but everything else is added below. So he's got some XGribOps components that are dates, times, URLs, URIs, webhook signatures, etc. And he's also broken it down for reply webhooks and other instances like GHL, where you can have one webhook that allows for a reply back. Then he's also accommodating for inserting that reply webhook into his full body message that can then be parsed out as another component outside of that. So
right, there's sort of two things there. Yeah, one, you can use that for your traditional request response scenario, which because you have a message broker in the middle, you need to have that concept of a reply to, because you're not getting that immediate return back. If you're using a traditional API, you would have that, right? Webhooks are generally designed to be able to catch an event status, but you can use those in a request response by just simply choosing whatever you want to name your reply to, and as long as the other side looks for that, you can respond back. The other thing we add is in the header is a correlation ID, and you can use that to prevent duplicate messages, so you can use that as your source to compare against a buffer and say if I see the same ID within a whatever window you want to store that for. You can use Redis or what have you. You can create your own deduplication scheme based on that. So
that's something we'll have to talk about. I've never worked with deduplication myself. I know the principle behind it. Obviously, it's something that allows you to keep from, if you got 20 messages coming in, you don't want to process 20 of the same message. It's
right.
only going to need to be processed once. A lot of people don't understand that these things are constantly flowing, and if a queue from one side stores and repeats 3 times, another queue might store and repeat 10 times. It depends on where you're connected. I found that to be the case when we first connected with Jim's Crib Ops. It was delivering, about 10 messages at a time while we were testing it. So he kicked it back a little bit to make it easier for us to just roll, test through the roles and make sure we weren't picking up previous queues. And that's the other thing, Jim. Tell them about what you're still working on with Crib Ops, things that have already come up just in conversation while we've been using it that might be potential future.
Right. Yeah. So of course, one we're going to be launching on other platforms. So it's Mac today, it'll be Windows, and then we'll be looking at doing Linux and potentially Apple TV as an interesting option. But then as Leland was referring to, we're also going to provide means for you to purge the queue. Like say you put a bunch of extraneous data in there as you're testing. So just an easy button to be able to purge messages that you accidentally sent 100,000 messages in there and you want to get rid of them instead of sitting there and processing each and every one. Their message brokers have a concept called dead letter queues, which essentially is it prevents poison pills. Let's say you have some kind of weird malformed payload from a form because you didn't do input validation properly, right? Or for whatever reason, some corner case happens, always happens, right? Corruption happens in the transit, right? When you have a queue system and you've got a consumer, that's essentially what CribLink is doing. It's consuming from a queue on your behalf messages that were sent upstream via webhook. If it has a problem processing that, it'll kind of be in an infinite loop, a poison pill, as it keeps trying to retry over and over again. You can set a message broker to say the max number of retries, like say 3, for example. Let's say it's 3. After 3 attempts of reading and not acknowledging, the message broker itself will pick that message up, pull it out of the queue, and drop it in a dead letter queue for you to go and figure out why it's like that, and then allow you to process the next message. Because if you don't do that, you'll end up having things will stop. Processing will stop. Yeah.
Or you get multiple executions and queues that you have to kind of work back through, and that was what we ran into the other day. We were just trying to keep in line with which ones were coming in, and there'd be like 6 more in a row that would show up, and they're like, nope, they're still on the old frame. It's still in the old workflow. So we had to really be careful there how many we let get through.
Yeah, so we're going to surface that ability. That's built in. The message broker technology has been around for decades, right? But this is a little unique from the perspective of we're putting the easy button of webhooks on either side of that, and so then it's just kind of adding the extra little esoteric functions on the user interface to take advantage of things that are kind of already there that we just have to tie together. But yeah,
have you found a downside yet with what we're doing here? Like any restriction that it's caused?
Less sleep.
Anyway,
less sleep as I was building it because I was so excited to build it. But yeah,
he was.
We've used it. We've used these for processing SOS messages, right? So I spent quite a bit of time in that space, doing these kinds of things. So I don't see necessarily a downside other than it's just a different way of solving problems than people are used to in the webhook space, right? And so it'd be education is the other side. People and there's a subset of the population doesn't understand what a webhook is. If you Google for fun, if you Google or look up on YouTube, what is a webhook?
Yeah, I always tell
there are an awful lot of YouTube videos on what is a webhook.
I tell people the difference between a webhook and an API by a simple analogy, and it's a toy box. It's like if you have a friend who has a toy box and every now and then he puts a new toy in his toy box, he's going to allow you to have a webhook that lets you get notified when a new toy ends up in his toy box. or he's going to give you access to his API, which lets you decide which toy you want to check out in his toy box by going over and opening up his toy box yourself and seeing what's inside and deciding which component or toy or whatever you want to grab out of that toy box at the time. So that's the weakest analogy I've been able to come up with for, webhooks and APIs, but people seem to get it when I mention it that way. So it works out.
Jim,
go ahead. Ross, bring some questions.
Yeah, I want to talk on a use case where I think latency is going to be key. What are you looking at for latency on this? Because one of the biggest use cases I can see for this in the AI space is going to be creating self-hosted voice AI. So it's going to be coming in through Twilio. We're going to write code to handle the conversation there, and then we're going to pass it through to CribOps and then pass it to N8N to access the tools. So what is that latency? I know Leland said 0.006 of a second. We're talking milliseconds at this point. Is that going to be a good solution for people who want to create those self-hosted voice systems?
Right. So it does have latency because you've got that that kind of bump in the wire, and you're transcoding the payload from one type to another, and it's going to be based on volume. Volume of the number of messages and how many consumers you have there. That's kind of the name of the game. Is and in the performance world of message brokers, the whole idea is to keep your queue depth low, meaning that you get the messages out of the queue as fast as possible, right? So that's where the latency comes in. So we are looking at also supporting other protocols. So essentially today it's HTTP on the front end, HTTP on the back end, and some magic message broker in the middle. We will likely open up other direct protocols, so you skip that one step, and you'll be able to talk via the message broker itself and decrease your latency. So things like MQTT or WebSocket type connections will open up. But yeah, just depends on your use case. Your mileage may vary.
Okay.
That's good stuff. I can't even look forward yet to what we could do. And even in that sense of the AI agent, I see people, because I do have a question about that end of things in a second. We've built several different kinds of agents here that are capable of either just accessing PDF files or doing full on scrapes, accessing all of our G Suite, let's just call it, and be able to tell us and summarize our meetings before we go to a meeting, read and sort our emails, label our emails for us, set up our tasks, fill in our calendars after the fact because it knows where our tasks are going to be and then decides where it should go. So, this is the future of, AI automation, is to be able to take away all the mundane busy work that everybody's doing with their little software SaaS products all day long, trying to click and move and drag and drop and everything else. A lot of that's going to go away. We know that. The interface is there to do so. We're already talking to our internal AIs with Telegram. We're just taking our phones and saying, can you give me a report from what's going on for the next 2 weeks out of my calendar? I've got 10 meetings. Can you sum those up for me and give me an analysis or schedule them for whatever, or send them an email so that tell them I can't make that meeting. That's all done. It's here now in our homes, not on the cloud, not somewhere else that we need to be established. So Jim is giving us that full access now so that we don't have to worry about it. But my question to you is, how then, is there going to be a way besides Cloudflare tunneling that you might consider for opening up our domains to the world as well? Like I have AIO Flow set up as a front end for N8N, but I can't use that domain build, it seems, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I did something wrong and you've figured out how to do it during this last few days. Will I still be able to attach a domain and access it from the outside world? And this without Cloudflare or anything like that?
Well, no. So you would still use
thing I will need, right?
If you need to have a public endpoint that's reachable, interactively,
I want to be on a beach typing away on my N8N build that's sitting in my home.
Yeah. So that's either if it's public or if it's only you that needs to have access to, then you might want to consider like an overlay network, like Tailscale, for example. And in that case, you're not opening up to the world. You're only opening up to you and whoever else is in their parlance tailnet, right? So we work in concert with that, with those types of services. we don't require them ourselves for that to work. But if your specific application requires that, you can use that in conjunction. Because it's not a kind of either or. Both are kind of mutually beneficial for their own specific niche offer. Right? We're providing. While you could use a Cloudflare and be that front end to your application, that's a point to point solution. So you have all the single points of failure there as it relates to that, right? Yeah.
So we could use anything we need. That's really
Yep.
what I was curious about. Is that something maybe on your roadmap in the future that you'd look into, or is that
Providing an additional? I probably won't. I probably won't kind of reinvent the wheel of other solutions for that. I think we're going to focus on the message delivery, but we may open different protocols up. So in that case, you would have public access to a real-time protocol for certain things. MQTT is an example. It's used widely in the Internet of Things space, right? And we have the ability to tie those together already. We just haven't opened it up as a public exposure point. There's a few extra little pieces you have to do to secure the environment, right? Because you want to actually authenticate any device that comes in, so that you're not getting bad data into your world or data getting exfiltrated out of your messages in your broker world. So we have to add a few extra pieces in order to open that up. But that's coming soon.
So I'm on the website for anybody that wants to go get CribOps. It is now available and open. Jim's got his little peekaboo sketch here as to how the magic happens at CribOps. So go take a look if this is something that would benefit you in your home lab. I think this is something you should have, honestly. I'm over here using it already. Jim's pricing is available on the website. So Jim, tell us a little bit about what the package offerings you have at CribOps are all about.
Yeah, so we basically just price it based on the number of instances of CribOps that you're running. So starting from what we call our solo, and we also have annual pricing as well, but $19 a month. We're saying 100,000 API requests. So if you compare that to something like a Zapier or Make, that should kind of open your eyes up to
free, basically you're getting 20% off right off the bat. So
right.
For an annual account. That's cool.
Yeah, so the CribOps Solo gives you a single instance of CribOps to run, and then the next stage up is the sync, and that's giving you a 5. And actually, we should put that on the public site. 5 instances of CribLink to run,
Okay.
and so now you can run it on 2 Macs, a Mac and a PC shortly, different locations, etc. And then the scale is 25 instances of CribLink, and then you can see the API request for
25. And
and then so the first tier is 100,000 API requests per month. The next one is 500,000, and the next one's 1 million. And then if you need something more, just let us know. We can work something out for you.
So can you explain what are the uses? So if I wanted to use CribLink Solo, I can use that if I'm routing multiple AI through that, and I can do that for customers as long as I'm the one managing that. As soon as I want to put it on site with my customer, then I need to bump up to the sync so that they can have an instance there as well.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And then you probably, as an agency, you probably need some, kind of flexibility, and you just reach out to us, and we can work on that as far as being able for you to, issue your own CribLink, licenses out as you need it. We'll come up with a, per license fee to make it easy for you. But so it's like 1, 5, 25, and then let us know what you need after that. But you can have tons of endpoints on a single instance. It's just really dependent upon the horsepower of your machine. It's a very lightweight process, takes very little memory and CPU utilization, and it's optimized for doing the thing it does, which is processing concurrent messages. And then you're just shipping them off to however many processing stations you have on your local or extended, overlay network, right? You could have, 100 machines locally that you're, sending these messages to from a single, CribLink instance on your network. So.
Very cool. All right, guys. I think we can put a wrap on it from that. It's 1:00 here in the eastern part of this country, the US of A, in this new 2025 that we're about to experience with a new president and all. So looking forward to a big banner year. At least I feel that way about it. I don't know how, I'm sure you gentlemen feel the same way in that regard. So, and I'm sure not everyone out there in the world does, but we hope that in this journey through 2025, we all come to realize that we're all the same people. I don't care what color you are, what nationality you are, we all bleed the same. And we hope that during that period of 2025, we all realize that and come together in harmony and peace in some way or another. All right, guys, thanks for being here. I do appreciate it. Jim, I wish you the best success on Crib Ops. And if any of you out there want to get a hold of Jim, tell him how. Let him know.
Cribops.com.
And Mav, how do you get a hold of Maverick Solutions?
You can find us on Facebook at Maverick Solutions, YouTube at Maverick Solutions, or you can find us at mavsolutions.io.
Yeah, we just got that website up for Ross the other day. I'm glad to be a part of that. So if you want to reach me, I've got a bunch of stuff coming together for Best Studios or AIO. And if you head to aiocrm.site, you'll see the links to all of my other feature sets for now. So thanks again, gentlemen. We'll see you on the next broadcast, hopefully at some point. But for now, it's just Ross forward on Best AI Podcast and the AI Fusion concept. So join us next time. See you then.
Thanks everybody.
We're breaking the mold. With AI fusion, let the story unfold. From love to business.
Thank you.
I think you got some good clips out of that too. You did some really good explaining in that.
The potential, make it crystal clear. Yeah. It's time to fuse, let the sparks ignite. AI in action, reaching new heights.
Thanks, appreciate it. First time I've ever been put on the spot. So
Well, that was really the first time, although I kind of doubt it.
yeah. It's a fair amount of the stuff that I had. I got rid of like the advanced panel because that was pricey. No, comms I still am, but it's now because we closed our facility down. I just gave the instant, the whole Mac Mini and software, and it's over. What's his name? John Hudson. I think yeah. He's in the Detroit area, so he stopped by, picked it up, and yeah. So there's for all their shows 24/7, even when they do the throw outs to the and we can use that as well, right? So it's my I have access to it, so I can create accounts and create groups and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's too much, yeah. But if you ever have a need for that, I've got a unlimited license. That's why they use it, so they can have any number of users and channels and whatnot. But and he's having me a week from Friday, so I'm gonna be on the. I think they only have 1 hour now. I think they got rid of the second hour or something. So in looking at their website, I haven't been watching them of late, but yeah, they're gonna have on that. Yeah, yeah. Oh, now they want to do it. Now it's cool. Whose idea was it? Oh, okay, Jeff. Oh yeah. I do. Yep. Yep. Right. You ever, I can't remember whose commercial, where there were some guys, talking about some eating, and then the other guy, says, interrupts him and then uses his hands and does something like this. And he goes, I can't remember who. It was really well done. It's like, all you did was do this. Yeah. No, so I only did what I did last night, which was like, we were struggling last night, Ross, with just getting the which was fortunate because we ran across an issue where it's like, I need to turn on the dead letter queue processing for scenarios like that. There wasn't anything wrong with the payload in our case. It was, I don't know if it was like N8N losing its mind or what, but that was the other thing. Speaking of that, so remember I was saying that so GHL has two outbound webhook capabilities. One's premium because you can completely control the payload, right? But the other one you can still influence the payload, but you also have to have everything else in it. That's perfectly fine because we're not really, yeah, because now it's essentially free for them, right? The inbound, if you want to do that request response, which probably isn't necessary for a lot of scenarios, but the inbound they charge for. But if you're an agency and you have the API, they're not charging you for that there's not a per request charge. So sending it back the other way is essentially free, and NAN has built-in support for their most current API v2, which I just got working, which works on a local host. So even though it's doing an OAuth location, the callback URL is localhost. It's fine, I guess. So that's cool. So that means that now you can have an N8N GHL integration without a public, without the requirement, at least for that, for a public endpoint. So now CribOps can facilitate any agency to be able to do things, with an N8N workflow, and all they have to do is add their, and it's free to get a private, just like a Ray marketplace thing. It's like 3 clicks and you define what roles you want and you're done, kind of thing. Once you do it once, you can do it a million times. It's very quick. Just set that up. So that means you could stamp out GHL specific, you could target agencies, right? And say, because they're not going to do it, but you could, give them a 2-minute video or do it for them, provide the workflows like Ross is talking about, where you're building the SOPs and the delivery of whatever automation, PI your RIP you're creating. Yeah. Free from the per transaction. So things like reactivation campaigns would be, because anything that's voluminous that that you're going to do content enrichment on that would tip the scales of a Make or Zapier bill or whatever. This would satisfy that need, like super low cost that they could then turn around and sell. Your intellectual property of automation, and the agency pays for, or a mega, or like a white labeled salesperson, is issuing out their reseller kind of a construct, resells the Crib Link. I haven't figured that out, but the whole go to market thing. I'm just making software. I haven't figured out how to sell it yet. Yeah. Right. Well, there's multiple players in there. It seems like everybody keeps. It seems like there's multiple players, and it doesn't seem like high level seems to push back on that so much, because they'll say we're just building skateboards. I think is what is the term they always use, and that if you want to, do an additional thing that's better and charge for it, we're okay with that. And they've even had people on their show, like the Zappy Chat guy or whatever, and I haven't dug into the Is he done? Yeah. Oh, did they? Whoops. Oh, so he was doing a uh, breaking the. I don't know if I'm thinking of the same company. So this is an AI based chat tool. No, yeah. Zappy Chat is like an AI chat. Yeah. Zappy Chat is, as I understand it, is a AI conversations play inside of GHL. I don't know if they play in any other space or not, but they have a looks like a tight integration with GHL. Bridget is like a reseller of it. I see her. I have been watching her stuff up late, but I had to figure out what she's thinking about. But yeah, I don't know what I don't know that they're doing any. That's the part I don't know, Ross. Is I don't know who's already in that space, pitching to them, doing some of the things that you're doing for like more voluminous things, like the either lead. There's probably somebody doing lead generation by now. I can't imagine there's not somebody in there doing something, but that doesn't mean that there's not a million different plays there. But yeah, I'm thinking about the anything where they're like, oh, I can't. I don't really know how to price this because my cost per message is too high, or cost per workflow, or whatever the task is too high, right? That is where I think that somebody within the GHL space would work.
We should get you on a call with Danny Rios.
Yeah,
he knows a lot of the big players in GHL, and he knows a lot of use cases. He'd be able to help with that more so. I got to jump. I've got a 1:15 call. So, all right. I'll see y'all later. Hit me up if you need anything. I'll be in and out all day with calls. Yeah, I think I'm going to buy a Mac just to get it so I have a separate computer processing the stuff instead of my main computer. So, it just gives me an extra system to process through. Yeah, it's pretty much what I'm going to be using it for. And then I'm going to have to figure out, I want to figure out how to get DeepSeek on my system once I get it there too, so I can run that in an 8N. Because if I can get DeepSeek V3 in there, it's going to be.
Yeah, that's I've been using it on and off. Like I've been leading with Claude, Sonnet 3.5, but then if you're using it fairly frequently, you're hitting the window. Oh, go take a 4-hour break. I don't have 4 hours.
I'm in the middle of this right now. I need two more conversations to finish.
Yeah, that's the thing that drives me crazy. It's like it gives you like two segments of the 3-segment thing, and the 2 segments are a repeat of what you already had, and the part you needed is the last one, and you got to wait for 4 hours. I'm like,
that's where the self-hosted system is going to be.
Yes,
because then
totally
all day long.
I'll never sleep.
I've had so many 3 a.m. mornings just working on AI because you're in the middle of it. I remember the early days with ChatGPT. I got to run, but see ya.